Well, that 6-point loss to Oregon in double OT doesn't seem so bad now. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 6 of the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome to the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Straight from the Crest podcast. I'm your host, Michael David Kresvich. Season 5, Episode 6 of the Straight from the Crest podcast. Just a two-man show today as Garrett serving his 1-week suspension from covering Penn State. We sent him down to Lubbock, Texas to cover Texas Tech, Kansas. But Big Game Beck's joined the show today. We're going to talk about Penn State's devastating loss to UCLA last Saturday. Talk about what's next for Penn State football program. Maybe some coaches changes, maybe some personnel changes, but we have it all covered here. We're also going to preview the Northwestern homecoming game, 3:30 FS1, as Penn State looks to pick up its first Big Ten win. As always, this episode is brought to you by Low Country Litter Lifters. At Low Country Litter Lifters, they pride themselves on being affordable, providing trustworthy and professional junk removal and waste management solutions in the Low Country. Whether you're managing residential, commercial, or construction waste, they'll take the worry off your plate with one call or one text. And now, a very special message from our friend Garrett at Low Country Litter Lifters.
Hey guys, this is Garrett with Low Country Litter Lifters, proud sponsor of the Straight from the Crest podcast. I just wanted to take a minute here to address some false allegations and bad rumors that have been floating around about us, that we might be some sort of jinx for Penn State, because Penn State has gone 0-2 since our sponsorship with the Straight from the Crest podcast has gone into effect. Now, these are completely false, bad, fake news rumors going around. We wish nothing but the best for real Big Ten football. I'm talking Penn State. I'm talking Ohio State. I won't say that team up north. But these newcomers, Oregon, UCLA, we don't want to see them have success against our true bloods. So this is all fake news. I look forward to the boys getting back on track this week. Coaches getting that mental block out there, refocusing the defense, getting back on track. Good luck.
All right, Justin, welcome into the show today, man. Obviously, a great message there from Garrett. It's nice to know that he still has our back amongst everything going on right now. And maybe it isn't them that cursed us. Who knows?
You know, the fact that he name-dropped Ohio State in that apology video makes me think that he's not as genuine as he's coming off. You know, we love Garrett on this show. We appreciate what he's done for us, but we could have done without the Ohio State name drop in his apology letter.
As I mentioned before, no Garrett today, just Big Game Beck and myself. We're going to start off with the ripping off the bandage here. We're going to get right into it. Penn State falls to UCLA 42-37. A UCLA team that was winless in 4 games, never had a lead prior to the Penn State game, fire its head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator, and they find a way to beat Penn State, not only beat them, but dominate them. The game wasn't as close as the score. They outgained them. They won the turnover battle. They doubled them up in time of possession. Justin, this isn't what we predicted last week on the show.
No, it was not. I don't think that anybody predicted this. I don't know how you go into that game thinking they're going to hang 45 on us. Now, if you go back to the very first episode of the year, I said this was our letdown spot, because it was after the whiteout game. Especially if we lose, I could see this game being weird. But even with me saying I could see this game being weird, I didn't think that meant we would lose. Getting 45 hung on you by a first-time OC that had, 3 days to prep for it, didn't know how to use a headset, and we're paying our DC $2 million a year. That's inexcusable. You can't lose that game. You can't lose that game in the fashion that you did either, where we just didn't have an answer for it. Like, we have Deny Dennis Sutton playing a quarterback spy. You know, Deny's awesome, but he's not Abdul. Like, Abdul Carter could play spy last year because he was fast. Like, he could run with athletic quarterbacks like Nico. Deny is not the same player, so why are you trying to use him in the same way?
Yeah,
the whole game, it was scramble after scramble after scramble, and we had no answer for it. You're paying a DC $2 million to have answers for it. So, I mean, that's my biggest takeaway. Is I'm just shocked at how many points they scored. But what were you going to say, Mike? Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I just wanted to say 424 yards allowed from this that was what Oregon tallied against Penn State. UCLA had 446 yards. They outgained them through the air and on the ground. Nico Singleton was turn back the clock. He played like he did last year at Tennessee, and of course, it was the game. But to your point, let's get into the SPY, because it felt like to me this was the perfect storm for UCLA going against Penn State. Obviously, Tony Rojas is out, which causes a huge gap in Penn State's defense. And when you have an athletic quarterback like Nico Ilamava and you have gaps in the Penn State defense, he exploited them. That's what it was. It was poor tackling, poor game management, poor planning, and poor ability to adjust mid-game. There was no reason that they were going to get embarrassed on the ground in that second half, but it happened. It happened. I mean, if you look at UCLA's possessions, their first 10 of the game, excluding the safety that they took late, 8 out of the 10 of them resulted in points. The other 2, a missed field goal and 1 punt. And that 1 punt was obviously returned for a touchdown thanks to the likes of Deny Dennis Sutton. But let's get into that, because I said this last year and I took some slack. I know at the beginning of the year, Deny Dennis Sutton's a great player. He's not Abdul Carter. He's certainly not Micah Parsons.
No, he's not. I mean, he's more of a 4-3 edge player, right? He's somebody that can play the run. He's somebody that can rush the passer, but he is not going to be able to go sideline to sideline with a scrambling quarterback. And putting him in that situation is doing a disservice to him, right? You're setting him up in a bad situation. I know Tony went down, and Tony's probably who they would have in that role, but you have to have a different answer. It cannot be take your best pass rusher and have him spy Nico, who is obviously faster than him, and that was apparent very early in the game. So I don't know why they just kept hitting their head against the wall with that scheme, but there was never a change the whole game.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the West Coast lag. I mean, it was a 3:30 kick for us, noon out there. I don't credit to that, but it was just. And I don't even give the excuse of the letdown to Oregon, but when you have a first-time head coach and you have just all the reasons in the world to at least be competitive, and the slow start derailed them, that was obvious. But I will say this, Penn State plays its best football, and I don't know why. Penn State plays its best football when its back's against the wall. They turned that game, even though the defense didn't show up at all in the first half or second half. Outside of one splash special teams play, the defense was non-existent. They laid down, they got embarrassed. It was the combination of poor coverage, awful tackling, and just laziness, pure laziness from a unit that was going to be one of the best coming into the season. So that's the defense. And I want to talk about the offense now, Justin, because you can say what you want about Drew's performance against Oregon. He didn't play great outside of 2 drives in that game. But what he did against UCLA is he stepped up where we needed him to step up against Oregon. He found ways to get Penn State into the best possible chance to win a football game. By utilizing his legs in that UCLA game, Drew ran for a team-high 78 yards. He had a long of 27 yards. Katron and Nicholas combined, 19 carries, 89 yards. I mean, Katron did score 2 touchdowns, but Drew put Penn State in the best possible chance to win that football game.
Yeah, Drew played fine. Drew was not the problem that game. The run game continues to be a concern, though, and I don't understand why Katron doesn't get the ball more. I think that we've been talking about that on this show for the past 2 or 3 weeks now. Katron looks to be obviously the better back, and we're still splitting carries evenly between him and Nick. I don't want to blame the offense because they did score 37 points, and like you said, they played fine with their backs against the wall, needing to score pretty much every possession. But then I look at that 4th down call at the end of the game, and I guess we criticize the 4th down call anytime it doesn't work. But just what are we doing?
That's a 3rd and 1 call. That is a great 3rd and 1 call, because if you get tackled like they did, okay, it's 4th and 3. You can still have that money play. And I don't know what they saw from their perspective, but I agree, just an atrocious way. And that's one of those plays where you saw it developing, you saw the stretch, and you saw immediately he had nowhere to go. Nowhere to go.
He was dead either way. I mean, Pena was dead. Drew was dead. That play, nothing Drew could have done on that play. Just the play call itself did not work.
Yeah, obviously the talk right now is the production that you're getting out of Katron Allen that you're not getting from Nicholas Singleton, although Nicholas Singleton is getting the touches. Something odd's going on there. I just wholeheartedly think, or I think they wholeheartedly believe that Nick is still their A, and Nicholas is their A, and Katron's their B. And I think they're just so brain wrapped into that, where they think they have. Coach Franklin said in his press conference earlier this week, they have different schemes for the different players in different situations. I think they need to get rid of whatever preconceived notion they thought the last 2 years and just judge it based on how hard they are running. There are numbers that support Nick's explosivity compared to Katron's. Katron Allen this year looks like a completely different player. Last year they were neck and neck. Nick was better 2 years ago, but Katron is the best running back on this team. And when you're 0-2 in not only Big Ten games, but just competent opponent games, get the ball to your best players. Another thing, Justin, Khalil Dinkins had the longest reception, which was a great play, 40 yards. The rest of the wide receiver room really didn't make an impact.
No, they did not. And it's funny because that was the tight end wheel route that we talked about last week. But the wide receiver room has not lived up to the expectation. I don't know what to say about it. Is it the scheme? Are the players not good enough? Because we look at what Harrison Wallace is doing at Ole Miss. He seems to be good enough. Are we just not running route combinations that work? I don't want to pretend to have the answers because I don't. It is surprising the lack of production we're getting out of the wide receiver room after completely revamping it and getting what our staff, or the Penn State staff, has said was their top 3 targets going into the year or going into the transfer portal. They got all 3 of the guys they wanted, and it has not made a difference.
I mean, if you look, when we first did the episode earlier on the year, we talked about the numbers that Devontae Ross, Trevor Pena, and Kyron Hudson put up at USC, Troy, and Syracuse last year, respectfully. They're not even going to sniff those numbers. None of the 3 are. Devontae Ross isn't getting 1,100 yards this year. Trevor Pena isn't catching 12 touchdowns this year. It's weird. It's a abnormal event to have 3 very special, talented wide receivers, a very special, talented quarterback who we still don't really know. I don't want to say I'm out on Drew, but I've dialed back my expectations, which that's fair. I always thought Drew was a great starting quarterback his first year. He took a big leap in year 2, and he should have taken a bigger leap this year, but it seems like that's going down. But to answer your question, Justin, I think it's a top to bottom. I think everyone's blaming the coaches. All I've heard this week is Franklin, fire Franklin, fire Coltonicky, get a new wide receiver coach in, get Drew out of there, bring Bo back. It's a culmination of both. It's a combination of poor execution on game day, which obviously goes into the preparation. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just a black cat Penn State season. It's weird because this is more talent. We think maybe we're just wrong. Maybe these guys aren't more talented than who we've had. Like, you look at Harrison, you look at Trey Wallace, where he's at. It's kind of the same thing. And in years past, going in, when Penn State doesn't have these high expectations, they seem to do better. And I don't know if it's like a mental block where the players were just stagnant and fine going into the season, being like, hey, we can sleepwalk even if we lose to Oregon, lose to Ohio State, and we're probably still going to get in. Now you can't do that. Now the only option Penn State has is to win out and hope and pray that Oregon and Ohio State lose a game, or hope and pray that after you beat Indiana, they rattle off 7 wins to end its season, 6 wins to win it and its season. Sorry. But I guess now that also shout out Amari Campbell, another double-digit tackle. Dom DeLuca also had double digits. So did Zakee Wheatley. Zane, Amari, and Zariah Fisher all got sacks. 3 sacks against USC. Pitiful performance. There's no pressure. And the pass coverage is also a big thing, but the pass coverage is broken down into kind of 2 parts. Obviously, pass rush plays a big deal into that. Nico was sitting freely, but we talked about the spy issue, but just an overall bad performance from the defense and a subpar performance from the offense. So 42-37, Penn State suffers its 2nd loss of the season and now is 0-2 in Big Ten play. Justin, a lot of rumors floating around right now calling for James Franklin's head, and this is a very vanilla black and white question for you. What does Penn State do at the head coaching position? Do they ride out what they have with James Franklin and hope this next group of freshmen and this next senior class can turn the ship?
Okay. It pains me to say what I'm about to say, but the season's not dead. Franklin can make this thing right. Everybody forgets about this if you run the table. If you beat Ohio State and you beat Indiana and you beat everybody else in the schedule, people will forgive this loss. Right now, everybody's going to call for his head. You're not going to fire him midseason. You're not going to fire any of the coordinators midseason. Right? There is a ton of capital invested into this Penn State football team. They're not going to give up on it midseason. Now, if this thing goes completely off the rails and we finish the year at 500, or the year we end at 7-5, at that point in time, maybe there is a discussion about making changes at the head coach position. But his job is not in jeopardy at 3-2. Everybody feels like the sky's falling, and it feels like that because you lose to UCLA, who, as you said, you called them a competent opponent. Going into that game, nobody was calling them a competent opponent. They were an 0-4 team that had not had the lead yet this year. The backlash from that is understandable. Everybody's going to be upset about that loss, including myself. I'm sure you're upset about that loss too. Like, that stinks. The season is not dead, and there is a chance to right the ship.
I'm with you on that. I don't think now is the time to overreact and make these knee-jerk reaction. And I get it, guys. Like, I know Penn State football has an expectation. I know he's had time. But you got to realize, literally, 2016, Penn State was in the same scenario. It's different that the 2016 team is not the same as this team. But crazier things have happened in Penn State football's history than Penn State running the table. And I'm not saying that's going to happen because I don't think it will. I have no confidence in going to Columbus right now. There's nothing that showed me on film that they can beat Ohio State. Iowa, I think they can beat. But Ohio State's talent, the talent discrepancy between Ohio State and Penn State is too large right now from what I've seen. Now, if they go out and they played Oregon and they beat UCLA by 45 points, maybe. But right now, there's no hope there. So pump your brakes, everyone. It's going to be okay. I know it's a very emotional. Justin and I are two of the biggest Penn State fans, and obviously, if you talk to us outside of this show, you understand that we're the most passionate Penn State fans there are. But just relax. If you're going to the game, enjoy the tailgating scene. Enjoy being back in Beaver Stadium. You only get 6 times a year to watch this team play at Beaver Stadium. Enjoy it. Soak it in. That being said, 3:30, Justin, FS1, the 22nd meeting between Northwestern and Penn State. It's homecoming day. The last time they met was in 2023. Penn State won 48-13 on the road in Evanston, Illinois. Northwestern is 3-2 on the season, 1-2 in the Big Ten, fresh off a 30.5-point victory and a 515-yard offensive outage last week. Head coach David Braun, the 2023 Big Ten Coach of the Year, enters his 3rd season as leader of the Wildcats, former DC at North Dakota State. Penn State's 21-point favorite. Over-under is 47.5. Justin, when you think of this Northwestern Wildcat football squad, what comes to mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is they beat UCLA, so we shouldn't take them lightly. I think that the 500-yard performance last week is an outlier against, it was an FCS school, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't expect them to put 500 yards on us, but I also didn't expect UCLA to put 450 yards up against us. I think we'll play better at home, and the fact that it's homecoming, in your background, when you can see the updated end zone, which is cool. I love the Generation to Greatness game. I think the jerseys look awesome. I expect us to right the ship. I don't know if we cover 21. I actually do think we do. I feel like we go out and we play well. And it's the first step, right, to building a little bit of good faith back with the fan base. You win this game decisively, and people probably take a deep breath and think, okay, there's a chance. Maybe this thing's going to get figured out. So I expect them to go out and do that. They're at home. There's no 3-hour jet lag or whatever body clock issue that there was last week. You got to win. You can't lose this one. If you lose this one, it's actually looking like the season is going to go like 5-7 at this point. Who do you beat if you can't beat UCLA and Northwestern?
Yeah, it's funny because last week Coach Franken was talking about how it's a good time to get out of town. I think it's a great time to come home. Outside of it being homecoming, I think this is a great time for Penn State to get that win. I don't care how they win. I don't think they cover 21. They just need to get a victory at home. This is a time where you really need to buckle in, figure out who you are as a team, and start playing the best possible football you can start playing. And that doesn't mean start in the fourth quarter. From personnel standpoint, their quarterback actually was in the college football playoff last year at Beaver Stadium. Quarterback Preston Stone, who was a backup last year to Kevin Jennings. This is the 7th straight season a transfer quarterback has started the season at Northwestern. Parker Stone, a guy from Dallas, 3,000 yards one point when he started for the Mustangs of SMU in 2023. He's tallied 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the season, and thrown for 900 yards. 4 of those 6 interceptions came in its opener against Tulane. And in the running back position, Northwestern suffered a massive loss. Earlier in the year, 6th-year senior Cam Porter had a knee injury that he is out for the season. He led the Wildcats in rushing the last 3 years. And now it is Colby Kolomafe as the lead rusher, who came into the year with just 54 rushing attempts in his career. He already has 76. So a new change there. Another running back they like to utilize is Joseph Hyman. Hyman is tied for 3rd on receptions, and outside of Hyman, they have transfer Griffin Wild, who leads the team with 25 catches, 375 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wild is a transfer from North Dakota State, where head coach Braun is from. On the offensive line, they actually have 2 NFL prospects in Evan Bernstein and Caleb Tiernan in terms of the offensive personnel. On the defensive side, this is an athletic bunch. I will say that. Robert Fitzgerald, not to be confused with Pat Fitzgerald, the old Northwestern head coach previously to Braun. He is a great kind of sub linebacker for the Wildcats. And outside of Fitzgerald, they bring a lot back on their defensive line. They're susceptible at the cornerback position, relatively young in their secondary, but it's a team that really hasn't played anyone outside of UCLA. So it's going to be a game for Penn State to get right there. Justin, you mentioned it earlier. You thought this 515-yard outburst was just a fluke. What does this Penn State defense have to do this week against Northwestern to maybe convince this fan base a little more, make this fan base a little happier?
So I think it's not necessarily just the Northwestern game, but they have to figure out the linebacker position. The rotation where it's all Dom and Amari, that it's not going to work. There has to be a rotation there. There has to be some depth. You can't play those guys all game, every game for the rest of the year. Stone doesn't present the same challenge of a running quarterback as Nico did. So we shouldn't be put in that position where running man coverage opens you up to huge gaps. But obviously we'd like to see some better QB contain. I don't know how much he is actually going to even try and leave the pocket. But getting a better pass rush is a start. Figuring out the linebacker position is a start. And these things, they have to compound and go down the rest of the season. We can't – I'm not going to be happy if it just gets figured out for one game. Like, the defense is able to contain Preston Stone, or we have a linebacker rotation that seems competent and there's some depth there. Like, we're going to have to see that the rest of the year. So it's a building block, but it's not anything that's going to get solved this week.
I think, to me, what I'm looking for is just a victory. I don't care how they do it. I don't care if Drew throws for 109 yards and the defense allows 35 points and Penn State wins 43-42. We can worry about the X's and O's and the numbers after Penn State gets a Big Ten win. That's really all I'm concerned with. And I think ultimately they do. Justin, give me your prediction and your first touchdown score for this game for Penn State.
I'm going to go... I want to put Northwestern at like 10 points, but after what I just saw, I don't know how I do that in good conscience. I know I said they were going to cover too. I don't know. I guess we don't cover. Give me 38-20 Penn State.
And first touchdown score, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Are they going to score a touchdown?
I think they are going to score a touchdown. The question is Dom going to be the one to do it? Give me a defensive score. That's how we right the ship. We get a defensive score to start the year.
Chris, clip this and send it to us. But no, over-under's 47.5, Penn State 21, which means like 34-12 around there, I guess it would be technically like projected score. Yeah, 34-12. I think it'll be a 31-14 game, Penn State win. I don't see Penn State covering this game, especially that spread. And everyone expected the big bounce back last week against UCLA. It's not a bounce back anymore. It's just they need to win. I'll ask you this, Justin. Is this a can't win, or is this a must win or can't lose game for Penn State?
Is there both? You can't lose it and you have to win it.
You got to pick one. I think it's a must win.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around the differences here. Give me must.
I would say Oregon's a can't lose game. You can't lose that game. This is a must.
You can't lose the UCLA game. That's a game you can't lose. This is a must win. I think the UCLA is a can't lose game. Like that loss is just it's correct. Horrible. It's horrible for the brand, everything. All right, this is a must win. UCLA was a can't lose. This is a must win.
Okay, there you go. So Justin, your first prediction's a defensive touchdown. I think it's a Devontae Ross bomb from Drew. I think they get on him early, and I every week I've said I hope and pray Penn State started fast and get out to an early lead. Just be tied by halftime. That's our best chance. Penn State has outscored their opponents in their loss by a significant amount the last 2 weeks from the fourth quarter on. Just be tied. If you just tie every first half, you won't lose a game the rest of the year. The stats don't lie. In Big Ten play, Penn State is undefeated when they outscore their opponents in the second half. And it's gonna keep if it was just the second half. No, okay. Not including overtime. I'm not including overtime. But that being said, Garrett, we wish you well, man. Justin, thanks for joining the show today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a somber occasion, but we got to stick with it, man. We believe.
Yep. Iowa preview next week as they announce that game's going to be a 7:30 game in Kinnick Stadium, so that'll be a fun show. Take care, everyone.